Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Powering Progress podcast with me, Lanre Sulola, where we look at how do we accelerate, power the careers, the progress of underrepresented talent across different organizations and industries. I'm really excited today to speak on this topic with our special guest, Mary Foulkes, today. And as always, it's an opportunity to digest, to explore the different things that will really make an impact for us. Mary became Director of Equity, Inclusion and Culture at Shelter in March 2022 as a member of the executive leadership team. Prior to joining Shelter, Mary was the Director of Human Resources and Organisational Development for two mental health NHS organisations. She has board level experience in the private, public and third sector and experience delivering large scale culture change programmes. And Mary was elected as a local government councillor and represented Peckham for 4 years while being a full-time director of HR. And she also received an OBE for her time spent on voluntary work and fundraising for several charities. So with that experience, I know there's so much that we can look at in terms of how do we really make an impact, empowering progress for underrepresented talent. Welcome, Mary. Great to have you here.
Hi, Lanre. It's lovely to see you again. And wow, what an introduction. I couldn't have done a better one myself. Thank you for that.
Well, we try, and we know that there's so much experience here in the room that we just want to share, and I know that there'll be some interesting things to look at around this. Firstly, this is all around powering progress. So I'd love to hear, what does powering progress mean to you?
That's a really good question, Lanre. And I always thought about it when I was a young person. And I was really influenced by Nina Simone's song, Young, Gifted and Black. And it was a really powerful message that made me realize the importance of self-belief. And so for me, powering progress has meant that I will always try hard to be proud of myself, just be proud of who I am, recognize that I'll always face obstacles, but I have to have that grit, thick skin, and credibility to remove them. So that's what it means to me.
Yeah, great, fantastic. And it's great to hear about it. It starts with self, and that's what I'm hearing, and that you talk about
Yeah.
pride for yourself. How important is that you can first sort of see it for yourself rather than trying to get validation from other people?
Yeah, it's important because the other song was The Greatest Love Starts With Yourself. Because
Mm,
if you don't have that confidence and that inner belief, which unfortunately some of us do not have that opportunity in the family or when you're growing up, it's difficult to actually, when people put you down or make you feel bad about yourself, that could subsume you. Whereas you can, if you have that inner belief, then you can say, well, actually, I'm going to listen to feedback, but it's not going to throw me off course.
mm.
And you have to have that inner belief to do that. And if you don't have that inner belief, you cannot give as much to ever anybody else. So I really believe that's important. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, also it looks like we've got the Desert Island track here as well. So we've already got two songs for you. So any others that come your way that has a message and can help
Yeah.
us, do share, because I can add to my playlist.
Okay.
So you talked about sort of having that self-belief at the same time facing challenges and barriers. And I believe this is an important part around this as well, as we look at how do we power progress, in particular for underrepresented talent, knowing that no one is going to be without challenges and barriers. We're not saying that we're going to click fingers and everything's going to be fine, or we're going to wake up every day there's no issues. It's understanding that there are barriers, and I think this is key for leaders who want to create change, and also for individuals who want to overcome whatever barriers they might be facing. From your experience, and you work in a large, prominent organization, head of culture, inclusion and equity, and you'll see different groups and teams and individuals. What do you see as the main challenges, barriers that underrepresented talent face?
Yeah, there are many, but I'll just focus on a couple, really. And it's so not only where I work at the moment, but I think from the experience that I've seen in other organizations. I'll draw on my own experience, but also from what other people have told me who I've mentored or worked with. And I think one of the main challenges, and it's still the case unfortunately now, there are not enough role models from underrepresented groups. who can inspire and motivate people to develop their skills and achieve their aspirations. And that is still a challenge. And I know from my experience, the additional responsibility that puts on the few people who are in those positions, which can be rewarding, and I found it rewarding, but also overwhelming. Because it does put you on this pedestal and there's high expectations. The rewarding part of it is that when people can see themselves in you, that gives them that confidence to excel. So having a role model who can be a critical friend, has got experience and that passion to help other people, I think is really critical and one of the main elements that will break down some of those challenges and barriers. The other thing, which is a bit more subtle, I believe, is about being your true self at work. Because if you have to try and be something else, that is energy sapping.
Mm.
And I know from my own experience, I've had to do that, and it is energy sapping. And I'll refer to some research that I think it was a Fawcett Society, which showed that Black women are more likely to change their behavior, and Asian women, and their appearance to fit in. And I have personally done that myself. And I have to say, it's mentally exhausting. So an organization will never get the best out of people if you think, like I thought, if I spoke up in certain environments, I'd be seen as an aggressive Black woman. And because I'm also from a working class background, there'll be comments about the way I speak about certain issues. So that did actually put barriers, I believe, and challenges that shouldn't be there. So as many people around who can be allies, who can open up and make people feel themselves, I think it will break down some of those barriers.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. And also what comes out is the intersectionality of this as well. There's so many different layers. You talked as a black person, as a woman from a working class background, and this is why we look at this piece around underrepresented talent, because there are many things that make someone feel that they're on the outside or they're not represented. I've worked in large organizations myself when I've looked around and just talk about race and ethnicity, for example, been in a minority and the feeling that comes up for you, and do you have to talk a certain way? And you talked about it as well, your appearance. And what's fascinating is the internal masking and the external masking as well. And as you talk, the drain that that can have, and we really want to, as well as look at what are the solutions and how we move forward, it is important to acknowledge that these things are happening, and the barriers that might be. Where do you think that link to being a role model and an ally is with the fact that there are people covering and masking and not being able to be themselves?
Yeah, I think that, and that's a really good question, because I do believe that if you got allies in the workplace, no matter what their background, and they're sensitive to different cultures and ways of being, they are hopefully can spot those signs and will do some coaching, put themselves in other people's shoes. And I've seen that reverse mentoring has actually transformed the way some people have think about people in the workplace. So I think there are activities that people can do, particularly leaders, to help challenge help people who feel they cannot be themselves, can't be themselves, and they don't see that. And 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 if you have a role model who they see actually they are their authentic self,
Mm.
that'll help them as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I've seen that, knowing the work you do with the affinity groups, for example, and I've had the privilege of supporting with some of that, and how important it is that there are allies for those different groups, and how they support and work each other. Do you feel that that's an area where more focus could be had in terms of how people can be themselves?
Oh, definitely. I'm glad that you've mentioned that actually, because because I interact with the affinity groups and other people, because we expanded it, so there was other leaders had opportunities to have that coaching, and some of the words that they raised was about they had more confidence,
Mm,
that they felt that they could speak up more. that they were given techniques to know how to challenge in a constructive way. So there were a number of tools that can be given to people from learning from other through coaching, or the safe spaces, like the as you know about the psychologically safe spaces that you did some share you that you've facilitated, made a huge difference. I'd seen that people who didn't want to step up into certain projects or roles stepped up. So it shows when people's got that confidence, they feel they can be themselves. That does give them that extra sort of passion and confidence to do what they really want to do
Yeah,
and be who
definitely.
they want to be.
Yeah, and I've always said as well, this is a journey. It's not just, oh, you have one session or one little bit of support.
That's
You're a
right.
role model
That's
for
right.
a day or a week. This
That
is
is right.
this is real
And
commitment, isn't it?
yeah, it is. And that is what I really like, is because sometimes when we have like the schemes that you're involved in and other schemes, and when people say, I want more, I need more, this cannot be a one-off. My development, the culture change is a continuous thing. So we cannot just see it as an initiative. It's got to be embedded. So some of the things we're doing, which I'll talk about later around succession planning, we're now trying to embed that within the organization. I suppose it's a one-off scheme, but you're right. The more we give people that support, the better.
Yeah. You talk, Mary, about what's helped you, like from the early stages, and as we said, shared at the start, the wealth of your experience. What have been the other factors that have helped power your progress, even to today?
Mm. I know it's interesting you asked that question, and I have to reflect on what that is really. And I just think from a young age, I always had this burning desire to be a leader in an organization. And and at that time I didn't know why. But when I reflect back and when I became those positions, I recognize one of the fundamental things was making my family proud. And I think the reason that was important, we did come from a working class background, and we did have some tough times in our childhood. And I was the first person in my family to go to university, and the only one to hold a board position and executive level position. So making them proud, but also making other family members know it's possible, and other people in my community. I now know psychologically, and in the back of my mind, that was one of the driving forces. And I think the other thing that helped, as you say, power that progress, is that I've been fortunate to have some great mentors who saw the potential in me, which I didn't see. And that did give me the confidence to not to be distracted by what I call negative energy.
Mhm.
And I also was taught the importance of building allies, because you cannot do anything by yourself.
Mm. Fantastic, fantastic. And what's really fascinating is all the things that you've kind of said before, these are the things that helped. It's kind of mirrored in kind of your journey, which I think is really important to see that this isn't like a textbook kind of answer. This is based on experience. And you talked about the importance of role models. You've also sharing that how you yourself being a role model for others is also powering yourself as well as others, and that's a really interesting point, that um a role model isn't just a one way thing whereby you're helping others. It actually can help yourself as a role model to push yourself forward and drive forward, so we're moving forward together. And sometimes with this conversation around creating equity, inclusion and belonging, there's a feeling from some groups that thinks, well, we're just trying to create a space for some individuals, which means we have to move out. And it's not that at all. We're trying to open the door for more people, but that still creates more space for current leaders as well to make an impact and really shape the culture. And I guess even with that, interested, um, from your perspective as director of equity, inclusion, and culture, how important is that cultural environment for the success of underrepresented talent?
Yeah. Um, that again is a question that I think is a really important one, because I think ultimately It's the leadership team of an organization that sets the tone of the culture. And if leaders make statements, but it's not followed through with action and showing what the impact of those actions are, then I do believe that culture change will be more challenging to embed. And I've seen that in the past when people just say, I want to do this is my vision, but there was no action or commitment following that. But I was actually pleased that under the leadership of Neat, the ex-chief executive of Shelter, publicly declared the organisation's ambition to be an anti-racist organisation. And it was published on our website, not just internally, but on our website. And she didn't only say that statement, but she put in the specific actions what will be taken to actually achieve that ambition. And I think that set the tone for the culture change that began in Shelter. And it did include in creation of the directorate that I lead, which is the Equity, Inclusion and Culture Director, which was established in 2022.
Yeah, fantastic. And what has that done, would you say, for people internally, having some of those, not only that clear vision, and again, this speaks to what leaders have to do to really make a difference, the vision, and also some of the plans to make that vision sort of come to life.
Yeah, I think like every organization, Shelter is still on a journey in terms of embedding all the cultural qualities that we're looking for. And I would say that what is important is the leaders ensuring it's embedded in the strategy. And we're in the second phase of our strategy, and all through it, we discuss and mention the importance of inclusion, anti-racism, and the impact it has on the people who use our services. So as much as it can be embedded in your strategy, and then embedded within your processes, like we have it within our objectives. We've got an inclusive behavioural framework. All the executive have made a public pledge, and every year we've got to explain how we've achieved or not, as the case may be, what we would say we were going to achieve. So having that commitment, that passion, and recognizing that, we'll never be perfect and always trying to make improvements makes a huge difference. That really authentic leadership that's really always recognizing this, we haven't done enough, and empowering people to come up with some of those solutions.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic to hear, and the importance of accountability. Because so for
Yeah.
leaders who are kind of listening and want to know
Mm.
what needs to be done, you talk about the importance of that strategy and the processes and the policies, and this again speaks to the commitment that needs to be made to make it happen, and it also links to another thing I'd really want to get your insight on, because obviously Shelter have a really big mission and purpose to address the housing emergency. So really big purpose. How does the focus around, you've talked about anti-racism, for example, how does the focus on the progression of underrepresented talent have on this bigger, wider mission? In Shelter's case, it's kind of solving the housing emergency. How do they link together, or kind of support each other?
We have conducted research into race and housing recently, and including how we ensure our services and the sector at large tackle the discrimination that many people experience when trying to find a safe and secure home. So we know it's essential to have a workforce and a leadership who not only reflect the people who access our service, but we're doomed to have the underrepresented talent in leadership positions to influence and to make sure our campaigns to tackle those emergencies are handled effectively. And I do think we are making progress actually, because and there is evidence that we're embedding anti-racism and inclusion into our campaigns, into our income generation activities, and where we deliver our services. And one of the things that we've invested in, which you know about, Lanre, was our succession planning program. And there was a particular focus on positive action to ensure that we have a diverse leadership. And we are seeing the results because at the moment, in terms of people of color at shelter, it's 15%. But when I look at the leadership, which is the directors and assistant directors, it's 44%. So we are making progress, but at our heads, I would say to sit at the head level, that line management level, we've still got some way to go to be more representative.
Yeah. Really, really interesting again to hear the kind of the progress, the work being done, and also we're talking about power in progress, and it shows that how power in progress of these individuals, and as you reach those targets, can power the progress of individuals outside in the community as a whole, in terms of the shelter mission, for example. And I would say that then has a positive cycle, because if we're then changing the environment for individuals in communities who were maybe struggling before, that likely helps them when they are seeking employment. That likely helps them climbing up the ladder as well. So it's not just powering progress of individuals, is this? This is powering progress full stop, which ultimately helps our community and kind of the place we live in. And that's really, really just something to reflect on, I feel sometimes.
And that's a good reflection, really, because what I've found from coming to work at shelter is the vast majority of staff are here to help vulnerable people.
Mm,
And when we see the research which showed that some of our vulnerable people who are from diverse communities are not getting the best services from shelter and other people in our sector, it does break people's heart.
mm,
And it does therefore make people feel we have to do better.
mm,
Because if we are not doing better for our clients, what are we here for?
mm,
So you're right, there is that cycle. We do better for our clients, it gives them that confidence. And some of the work we've done with our corporate partners who've gone out to some of our clients and given them, say, financial advice,
mm,
that has made a whole difference to our clients' life as well. So as you're right, there is that cycle. When their lives are better, they're more likely to get the homes they want. Not only, and when they get a good home, they could get good education, a good job, and become leaders at shelter.
mm. There you go. It all works. See, we got the
Yeah.
strategy, you got the plan.
Yeah, that's
Mate,
the that's the passion. That's
exactly.
the
You've
that's the
seen it come
mission.
through. You've seen it coming through. What do you think senior leaders can do more of? I know we sometimes always think you've got to do more, you've got to do more. But is there anything that you feel, all right, this just turns the dial up a little bit more?
Mm. I think it's repeat, repeat, repeat.
Mm,
So people don't forget. So you have to have a clear, compelling vision. You have to keep telling people and doing actions to embed that vision. Be clear on what those goals are. What's the roadmap? What's the rationale? And what are we having to do to achieve inclusive and diverse leadership? And you have to keep saying it and showing actions being taken. The other thing is to develop empathy or express empathy. And I think it's important. And I, as a leader, always try and put myself in the shoes of someone else from a different background or culture. And things like reverse mentoring or just shadowing somebody in their work for a day makes a huge difference. And I have seen people from different backgrounds and leaders who felt that they were okay in dealing with people, recognize they had some development needs from the things they did. And I think it's also to be bold, is really important. Do not be blown off course by what could be external or internal pressures. You have to just keep going, keep having that compelling reason for the reasons you're doing it. And finally, I think every leader, they have a time when they move on and they have to leave a lasting legacy. So it can't be unpicked because you've got a different leader. And this can be achieved by putting equity as a clear priority in the strategy, in the operational plans, and embedded in it within all objectives. So that's my view on that.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mary. Some things that people can really experiment with, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
like so maybe people thought, well, I don't know how to do it, but
Mm,
yeah, can you get someone just to shadow you, and that creates learning for you
that's right.
and for them, and leads to new opportunities. And I think there's some great examples where this becomes part of this everyday interactions, which helps build relationships, which helps aids insights, and we can better kind of work together. So you said about that empathy, um, putting yourselves in the shoes of others, and I guess from the work that you've done, even your previous work, um, empathy has to be a big part of it because you're if you're advocating for them, if you're kind of representing them, you can't do that without a good level of empathy.
Mm. And that is right, and you have to recognise, because I spoke about role models and allies before. Now, with all the will in the world, you not all organizations will be successful despite all the efforts to have a diverse leadership. So if you can, and I have had people who've mentored me who've been like white middle class people who have got empathy and put their self in my shoes. So it can be done if people make that effort to get to know an individual and their life and their lived experience. And I think organizations should invest more into building allies, of all backgrounds, and that will really help embed what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, definitely. Any other thoughts on because we know when we talk about underrepresented talent, they might be at different levels. Um, any advice to someone either navigating their career or they're just trying to get to that next level? They're trying to get to that board level, that executive level. Maybe they bump their heads a few times, or they just can't see a way to that next stage. Any advice you would give to them?
Yeah, and I have to just build on my experience again, as opposed to a theory in a book. You have to be clear on your long-term ambition. And if you're not, you need to seek help to have that clarity. Because once you've got that clarity, then you'll know what steps you need to take with the support of others to make it a reality. So I think that is a foundation of any push to become a leader. The other thing is you have to be an expert in your chosen profession. Never feel that you can't learn from others, and never feel that people who are not in your profession cannot actually help you develop those skills even more. So, continuous learning and learning from others is also a critical element. Also, seek support to build resilience and confidence, because without those two elements, for anybody, they would struggle. But if you are from an underrepresented group, we all know, additional obstacles. So you have to seek that support to build resilience and confidence. And I'd also say have a network outside of the working environment that you can scream and have a good meal with and just vent. And most important, make every effort not to compromise your well-being, because life and work can be stressful, and you have to find a way, do yoga, meditation, go for a walk, talk to a colleague, whatever. Find a way that you don't compromise your well-being.
Some great points there, and I think something that we could all benefit and gain from and be reminded of, Mary. So, yeah, thank you. Really, really helpful. We are coming to a close. It's been great to kind of get your insights and ideas and thoughts around this. Last question. Always ask our guests this. What is Power in Progress going to mean to you personally? Going forward? Love to hear what the next steps look like for you. What does Power in Progress look like for you?
Well, it looks like that we just continue to recognize that we have got a journey to be a really inclusive organization. And and I am absolutely excited because I can see from our strategy that there is a real commitment to making the changes, particularly in the current environment, external environment that we're operating, to stay on course. So just seeing the fact that there are initiatives going on in the work in anti-racism and equity that I don't know about, and people are doing it. I want that to continue, so that people are confident to know what to do. I want people to continue to just think about, we're not talking about a scheme, we're talking about your colleagues or the people we're here to serve. So, yeah, so I'm excited. And I think if we can just do more to embed and people feel more confident with helping people who are underrepresented without thinking it's a project or a scheme would really make me do somersaults.
No, fantastic, and it's so inspiring to hear. I'm sure it'll be inspiring for those listening, trying to navigate their careers of actually what is available, what they can do. I hope it inspires current leaders to know that actually they play such an important role, and there are leaders like yourself trying to make that impact and difference. And the more we focus on that, the more positive change and we will see. So we have come to the end of our episode. It's been a real pleasure, Mary. Thank you for your time and your insights. And I look forward to seeing everyone again soon on this. But for now, take care of yourselves. Keep powering your progress. Bye bye.